Imagine if a modern tech giant, say Apple or Amazon, had its own private army, its own nuclear submarines, and the power to declare war on a sovereign nation. It sounds like something straight out of a dystopian science fiction movie, right? But what if I told you this isn't fiction? It's history. This is the incredible and terrifying story of the East India Company, a corporation that became a conquering empire. Our story starts at the very beginning of the 17th century, in the year 1600. A group of English merchants, with a royal charter from Queen Elizabeth V, formed a modest company. Their goal was simple: to get a piece of the lucrative spice trade in the East Indies. In a world dominated by colossal powers like the Spanish, Portuguese, and Mughal empires, this honorable East India Company was a tiny player. It wasn't a nation, it was a business, founded with the sole purpose of turning a profit for its shareholders. They were looking for pepper and cloves, not power and principalities, or so it seemed. For decades, the company operated as just that, a trading firm. But then things began to change. Slowly at first, then all at once. The company's directors in London, thousands of miles away from the action, successfully lobbied the British Crown for more and more privileges. The critical turning point came when the company was granted a series of astonishing rights. The right to mint its own money, the right to acquire foreign territory, and most chillingly, the right to command its own private army and wage war. This was the moment the line between commerce and conquest began to dissolve. The company was no longer just a business. It was becoming a state within a state, a corporate entity with the powers of a sovereign nation. With these new powers, the company's ambition exploded. Its focus shifted from the Spice Islands to the vast, wealthy subcontinent of India. This is where the story of corporate conquest truly begins, and its central character is a man named Robert Clive. Clive wasn't a general in the traditional sense. He was, in essence, a ruthless corporate executive. His masterpiece of hostile takeover was the Battle of Plassey in 1757. Facing the massive army of the Nawab of Bengal, Clive didn't rely on superior numbers. Instead, he employed classic corporate tactics: bribery, deception, and industrial-scale espionage. He secretly conspired with the Nawab's disgruntled commander, Mir Jafar, promising him the throne in exchange for his betrayal. The battle itself was more of a choreographed collapse than a genuine fight. With the Nawab's forces in disarray, Clive's small but disciplined private army secured a decisive victory. This wasn't a national conquest, it was a corporate acquisition, executed with military force to secure market dominance and eliminate a competitor. After Plassey, the floodgates opened. The East India Company transformed from a trading partner into the de facto ruler of vast swathes of India. And what followed was not governance, but a systematic, brutal extraction of wealth. Think of it as a corporate strategy designed to maximize shareholder value at any human cost. The company imposed crushing taxes on the local population, often demanding revenue that was impossible to pay, leading to widespread poverty and devastating famines. One of the most infamous of these was the Great Bengal Famine of 1770, where the company's policies exacerbated a drought, leading to the deaths of an estimated 10 million people, a third of the population, while company officials hoarded grain and profited from the scarcity. They also forced farmers to stop growing food and instead cultivate cash crops like indigo and, most notoriously, opium. This opium wasn't for local consumption. It was forcibly exported to China, creating a massive addiction crisis there, all to balance the company's trade deficit from buying Chinese tea. Local industries, particularly India's world-renowned textile production, was systematically dismantled through prohibitive tariffs and coercion to eliminate competition for British-made goods. India was being deindustrialized and turned into a raw resource pipeline for a private corporation. But an entity built on such extreme greed, corruption, and mismanagement is inherently unstable. And by the early 19th century, the company was a bloated, chaotic mess. Its officials in India, known as nabobs, were amassing obscene personal fortunes through corruption and extortion, while the company itself was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, repeatedly needing massive bailouts from the British government. The sheer brutality of its rule sparked widespread resentment, culminating in the massive Indian Rebellion of 1857. This uprising, which the British called the Sepoy Mutiny, was the final nail in the company's coffin. The scale of the violence and the clear inability of the company to govern was too much for the British Crown to ignore. In 1858, the British government stepped in, dissolved the East India Company, and transferred all of its territories and powers directly to the Crown. The company that had conquered a subcontinent was nationalized, its assets absorbed by the state. The age of the British Raj had begun, but the age of the corporate empire was over. So, what's the lesson here? The story of the East India Company is a chilling historical precedent. It shows us what can happen when a corporation's power grows unchecked, when the pursuit of profit is untethered from human morality, and when the line between a company and a state is erased. Today we live in an age of mega corporations whose wealth and influence dwarf that of many nations. They shape our laws, influence our politics, and control the flow of information on a global scale. The story of the East India Company forces us to ask a critical question. Are we learning from the past, or are we simply witnessing the rise of the new East India Companies, just in a different form? Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into history as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.